Hello, Sam Miller from the Mendoza College of Business, coming back to you again with our discussion around anticipatory innovation, and in particular, some perspective from author Bob Johansen and his most recent work around full spectrum thinking. And again, Bob Johansen is a long time expert in regard to future-oriented leadership and innovation. And it's the third book in his trilogy. And in our prior video, we talked about the idea of categorization and how that can influence the way we define our questions, and that if we can reframe the questions as more ambiguous questions, it opens up the lens to allow us to understand possibilities that are much more transformative. And in this video, what I'd like to do is just quickly talk about the concept of the distinction between what Bob Johansen refers to as clarity and certainty. And with an emphasis on clarity, right? That future-oriented leadership with a full spectrum mindset is really based on having clarity and not certainty. And so let's explain, right? Clarity, he explains, includes having curiosity and around other points of view and other possibilities that might be unknown and even contradictory to the things that we believe to be true in the current system, right? And it encourages experimentation and even rewards failure. Certainty, on the other hand, does not, right? It's if indeed you want a precise answer, then sticking within the box and the categories that are known can lead to a much more specific answer that can be correct or incorrect. Unfortunately, it's generally not a breakthrough idea with transformation at its core. Clarity also allows you to recognize the fact that there's stuff to be learned that's unknown out there that should be embraced, and that going on a quest to uncover these new truths is part of the process. Certainty, on the other hand, requires that you have the expertise required to engage in your field, and that not knowing something is seen as a point of failure. And so I think it's really important to recognize the distinction between clarity, which is very future-oriented, and certainty, which is more constrained to the current status quo. According to Bob Johansen's research, the future will reward clarity, and it will punish certainty. Certainty is fragile, and answers that are a little bit wrong become cascadingly and profoundly wrong. Clarity, on the other hand, is more inclusive to possibilities. The fact is that clarity is directional, right? And it endures longer. If you have a clear vision of the preferable outcome, then that is sort of a North Star, and you don't want to renegotiate your North Star very often. The key here is that what you want to do is be clear on where you're trying to get to, where you're going, right? What's your North Star, and then flexible on how to get there. In Bob's book, from the chapter that we read, he talks about commander's intent that provides that directional clarity for the outcome, but it pushes the decision making down into the field more deeply, where decisions can be faster and more actionable. And so again, how clarity versus certainty factor into the decision making process and the way of thinking about the future. And then the cornerstone of Bob's approach here is what he calls future back thinking, right? It's not about thinking about the future, but rather it's about visiting the future, understanding, immersing yourself in the possibilities of the future, and then thinking from the future. How might we make that future come about? What sorts of things need to occur to create that future? He calls it now, future, next. And he suggests that capability to from the position we're in now to visit the future through our explorations and the questions we ask and the discovery research that we conduct, and then from that view of the future, look back to help map a plan for what comes next. He says that is the ideal pathway in a world that he calls VUCA, right? Volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous. And let me ask you, does that sound familiar to the situation that you're confronting in your business pretty much every day these days, right? And so what it allows us to do is to have a much better vision and understanding about that North Star, that directional vision. Present forward thinking, certainly, I'm not trying to give it a bad rap, and neither is Bob Johansen, that there are moments in decision making where you have to have a now, next, future, right? Where you have to have a single correct answer around things like quality and risk management and maybe banking and taxes and things like that. That in stable times in a shorter time horizon, you've got this present forward sort of capability that is, that's your optimization, that's your operational folks. And what you have to do is create ambidexterity around those two capabilities. And again, back to this now, future, next. Maybe some of you have heard the term backcasting, right? And it's sort of forecasting looks from where we are forward. Backcasting, looks to the future and then maps a pathway towards that future. And so this is what we'll put in play in the webinar. It's a powerful framework that I think will really help you understand how to put these sorts of capabilities and processes and ways of thinking and bring them into your organization and help make them part of your DNA to make your organizations more anticipatory. And that's what it's all about. So that's the second quick video building on Bob Johansen's full spectrum thinking. That sets up our discussion around the webinar on February 10th. Hope most of you can make it. I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again, as always, for your time. Have a great day and go Irish.